Hi, welcome to SpaceX. Here we're in the lobby. I mean, the very early days, I'd have meetings with NASA and they'd be like, oh yeah, whatever, it's internet guy, PayPal, whatever. It's just some rich guy is gonna lose all his money and rocket's not gonna work. Which is totally, fair. I mean, we hadn't proven anything, I hadn't proven anything.
In the early days, when SpaceX was first trying to get to orbit, they had a rocket called the Falcon 1, and they launched it 3 times. All 3 times were unsuccessful, and they had one more chance. The 4th flight of Falcon 1.
If it didn't work, then SpaceX would have gone bankrupt and we would not be around.
Stage confirmed.
Fortunately, Flight 4 did work.
The Falcon 1 rocket was a success. In 2008, SpaceX landed their first NASA contract. SpaceX was now officially in the space game.
NASA awarded contracts to SpaceX and then Orbital Sciences to fly cargo and supplies to the International Space Station.
NASA brought capital to the company at a time when it was absolutely critical for us.
Behind me is where Falcon 9 would sit during launch. And the big transformation that's going to occur over the next few months is the construction of the launch mount. With NASA, we kind of initially got onto the Maverick section, or the highly unlikely to succeed, but we'll take a chance on them. But we were definitely not considered the 18, let me put it that way.
Under contracts with NASA, SpaceX has flown multiple cargo resupply missions to the International Space Station. But flying cargo was never the end game for SpaceX. Their goal has always been to fly people. It was the company's success with these prior programs that gave NASA the confidence to hire SpaceX to fly their astronauts for the Commercial Crew program.
We've had a long and very productive working relationship with NASA over time, gradually building up from these guys have no chance to, over the course of now 18 years, to the point where NASA has enough confidence that they're going to launch astronauts on the SpaceX vehicle. So that's it's a
The Crew Dragon capsule is the spacecraft that houses the crew. It is replacing the Cargo Dragon capsule that was previously used on SpaceX resupply missions to the International Space Station.
The Dragon spacecraft that we'll be using to carry astronauts to the space station and bring them home is really a 21st century spaceship.
My first impression of the inside of Crew Dragon, I was amazed. It's obviously a modern space vehicle. It's a very sleek design inside, very comfortable. The seats are actually car racing seats, so the safety factors go up considerably.
We've flown Crew Dragon already to the space station and back. We subsequently made a lot of changes, improvements, but we also just have to be absolutely paranoid about safety.
Well, the experience of training in an accurate capsule with a spacesuit is invaluable.
Bob and Doug wore their spacesuits in this simulation because we want training to be as flight-like as possible for them.
SpaceX Dragon, we are ready to pressurize.
When you have all your equipment on, it allows you to get more comfortable in a situation. So the more you can train in those suits, the better you'll be on the real day.
It's exciting to see, modern components in a spacecraft.
You get very used to the shuttle, the 2,000 switches, circuit breakers, the seats. It's not the most comfortable vehicle to fly in.
For those of us who've been living with switches from the 60s for all these years, to see a modern interface is something that's pretty exciting.
SpaceX Dragon, we've got 2 good LEDs.
Copy all, Dragon.
Some of the great innovations that we've made, we have these wonderful touch screens, so you can see everything that's going on in the vehicle. You can get all the data that you need about the vehicle. And you can also control the vehicle all from these touch screens.
The gloves are compatible with the touchscreen. It's imperative because there are operations you need to do with the gloves on.
Our tablets are updated.
The Dragon capsule is almost completely automated, so it should be able to fly the entire flight without us intervening at all if everything goes normally. And I think it's the way of the future with vehicles. I mean, we see that now with cars, we see it with airplanes, and this is just the next.
This building houses and processes Falcon 9s that have landed at our landing pads or have been landed on the drone ships and have come into port. To refurbish a rocket, they roll into the hangar, we load them into their processing rings, and it's a matter of weeks to process them and get ready for launch. Reusability is incredibly important to space exploration. One, it helps with cost savings, and two, it helps with time. If every time you had to build a new vehicle, we would be waiting and waiting and waiting for a new rocket to be produced. But when we're able to fly rockets, land them, and reuse them, that means we can access space on a weekly basis versus like a monthly or yearly basis. The end goal is obviously to have zero refurbishment, to be able to land and then relaunch like airplanes, to ensure that we're able to access space on a daily basis. That's something that SpaceX is very proud of and what we're trying to do as a stepping stone to help us to get to Mars.
Normally the stages, they basically just crash in the ocean. Yeah. You can't recover the hardware, so you can't see where there was a close call. Right. When we get the vehicle back, we examine the vehicle and physically see, was there anything that potentially had a burn through or where we were close on margins. Right. And then we can adjust that in the design.
Well, what we're seeing, when you use the same rocket the second, third, fourth, fifth time, insurance rates actually go down, not up.
That's how you can tell. Like,
yeah.
The insurance companies are pretty sharp.
Right.
Like, they don't like losing money.
Right.
After you get through that first flight, just like a commercial airplane, you like an airplane that you know has been flown several times rather than being the first customer on board the airplane.
The commercial insurance rate is the best indicator of the reliability of a rocket.
Right.
And we have the best insurance rates in the world.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
The Holy Grail is really a fully reusable orbital system. By far the most important thing. It's like the difference between having aircraft that are reusable or not, or cars. The profundity of this is not well understood by very many people.
Team SpaceX still has one more critical test to pass before they will be allowed to fly NASA astronauts. What happens if a rocket explodes in flight? There is a plan to save the crew.
3,
SpaceX
2,
now must prove
1.
that it works.
Launch.
Uh-oh.
It's teasing me.
That's the Three Stooges poke right there.
It's like the motor.
Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken are super experienced. They have many years behind them. They're two people who've been to space.
I did fly on the space shuttle previously. I flew a couple of missions. I went to space station, did a lot of assembly, spacewalks.
And there's both waving.
I flew on STS-135, the last shuttle flight, and then before that STS-127, which was an assembly flight.
We go pretty far back. You know, we were hired in the same astronaut class back in 2000, so going on 2 decades, which is I guess we're called maybe the senior astronauts at this point. And
old guys.
Never flown in space together, and that's what's really exciting.
Bob and Doug actually met their wives in that same astronaut class. So they're both married to astronauts, and they both were even in each other's weddings.
That's Megan MacArthur, who is our flight engineer.
Astronaut Karen Nyberg blasted off for her mission aboard the International Space Station.
Having spouses that are astronauts that have been through what we're going through, that kind of recognize that there's long days that are involved, and they appreciate that aspect of it.
Just make sure the backups are doing their job.
They're not all that bad.
They understand the ups and the downs, they understand the risks. It just makes it a lot easier in some respects, and maybe harder for them in some respects because they do understand all the risks, and they've done it.
You left a 3-year-old son at home. You missed his first day, I think, at preschool.
Of course it's hard, but we do have great communication. My husband sends up pictures and videos.
We both have families that are pretty similar. We both have young boys that are in elementary school. They're both going to get a chance to really kind of see us flying in space for the first time. I'm really excited to be able to share this with my son. He understands that rockets are dangerous, and he first said, "You can't fly on that rocket." And we had to get him over kind of the emotion that goes along with riding on a rocket ship and getting him comfortable with that.
As we move towards flying, these two individuals, as we often refer to them as these two fathers, right? They're these two people who have families. It's something that we take very, very seriously. We want to make sure that everything we do is right.